Hello, welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor of Crop Life and Crop Life Iron magazines. Back in office, as is my good friend and co-host, Lara Sowinski. Lara, boy, did we have a week in Des Moines. That was some party slash event slash interview session marathon that you and I were doing. I know I was quite exhausted and slept most of the weekend. I'm sure you did much of the same.
Yeah, I thought they were going to have to carry us back on stretchers, but we made it back on our own. But yeah, boy, it was nonstop. It was awesome. It was great.
Yeah, I know. I've often teased it in 40 years of trade journalism that I've probably composed about 2 million words, but I swear as many fireside chats and moderation sessions that we had at the Tech Hub Live event in Des Moines last week, I probably uttered about 2 million words, I would imagine. So, and that it felt like it. I mean, my voice was a little sore and my throat very parched, but yeah, I'm recovering. So, but I see you're still wearing the memorabilia for women in ag tech. So yeah, if you wanted to give another shout out to that, because I know that is going to be continuing thing, and we'll let you tease when's coming up again. So
Yeah, gosh. So these were some of the swag that we offered, and we were expecting, in person, our first meeting, 40, 50, maybe 60 tops. We had over 100 women that showed up, and we kept on bringing in chairs and jamming them in the back of the room and standing room only. It was an incredible turnout, and I believe that we delivered and exceeded expectations. Our speaker, Karen St. Germain, Dr. Karen Germain St. Germain from NASA, director of the Earth Sciences Division. She was awesome. She gave us a presentation so that we could all better understand NASA's role and relationship with ag, and why they were in Iowa that week for their second Midwest farm tour. They conducted a farm tour, just like a visit and drop by and learning kind of tour last year, Kansas and Nebraska. They drove through those states last summer. This year, Iowa and Illinois, were the places that they were visiting. And again, it was really just outreach and building relationships and really learning more what the farmers are doing, and likewise providing information as to what NASA is doing, both via the NASA Harvest and NASA Acres programs, and the types of data that NASA is gathering, and showing farmers what NASA can provide in terms of forecasts and such with weather and soil moisture, whether it's 1 meter down in the ground, whether it's the aquifers. It was just incredible. So we learned a lot. I had a chance to sit down with Karen, ask a few questions of her. One of the biggest things that I think about, and I'm sure we all do, is the global food supply chain. How safe is it? How reliable is it? How where are we going to be in 20, 30 years? I mean, we're stressed now. I mean, we see the impact of climate, and there's good news and bad news. Sometimes it seems overwhelming, like how are we truly going to meet the demand in future years? And she said, really, she says that a deregulated approach to the global food supply chain and food security. In other words, it's not going to be like a food czar, if you will, saying, hey, this, everyone, all countries, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. She said really a deregulated approach whereby all people in all aspects, ag, scientists, consumers, that it's a collective, reasonable approach, like people making reasonable decisions about how to proceed and how to address things. And so that kind of kicked off a Q&A that we had collectively with Karen. The women that were there in attendance, we talked about career paths. We talked about attracting young women to ag tech. And one thing that Karen mentioned that really, a lot of people kind of talked about is that, while NASA and other companies obviously hit kids up while they're in college still, but she said, we're finding that by the time women in particular, maybe more so than young men, by the time they're in college, they've already pretty much determined their career path. She said that to attract women to ag tech, you really have to catch them a lot earlier, middle school and high school. So we talked about that. We had good food, good wine. We broke out into sessions. I mean, to be honest, I was like, wow, we're having such a good time. When it was, on the agenda, we had scheduled time to do some breakouts and work on specific topics, 3 topics in particular, like what's our go forward plan now with women in ag tech? While we have a framework, this is still, it's crowdsourcing. It's, for the people, by the people kind of approach. Content wise, what type of content, how frequent, what platforms. We do have a LinkedIn group, of course, for women in ag tech, but we broke out, that was one breakout was devoted to that. Another breakout was on a mentoring program. What does that look like? Who's going to do it? What do we, we're trying to really kind of get down more to brass tacks. And then lastly, we talked about, some of the top things that women who were coming to Women in Ag Tech want out of the group is networking. So what does that look like? Where, how, when? Kind of the same thing, more in person. What types of things, online can we do to facilitate that? We are going to co-locate with the Vision Conference, January 22nd through 24th in Glendale. So that will be, our next, at least at this time, scheduled in-person meeting for women in ag tech. But we, part of that, those breakouts were kind of to get more details. So again, I was thinking like, we're having such a grand old time here. Are we really gonna get work done? And I'm telling you, Eric, it was like when it was time to work, everyone got quiet. They went to their respective groups. I have sheets and sheets of whiteboards. We whiteboarded everything. Got to hand to these women. It's like, fun and play, but then it was time to work. So, boy, by the time we got out of there at 5 o'clock or so, the energy was just fantastic. And like I said, we had probably had about 50 hats on order, and naturally we ran out of the hats right away. I wore this on the way home and was sitting in the gate area in Des Moines Airport, and a professor from Iowa State approached me and he said, what's women in ag tech? And so that happened about three or four times on my, relatively short flight, Des Moines to Dallas, Fort Worth, back to El Paso. I had a couple people ask about it. So I was teasing earlier today. You heard me say it was like wearing a billboard.
Nothing wrong with promotion when it's something that you're promoting as good. So that's great.
Yeah.
Great news that. So hey, speaking of great news, just a segue, I guess we have some good news to share regarding a potential strike that now is not going to take place. So if you want to update our viewers on that.
Yep, huge sigh of relief. July 25th, UPS and the Teamsters reached a tentative agreement on their contract talks. The contract that's due to expire on that was due to expire on July 31st. Then on July 31st, the local union voted 160-1 to approve the deal, and starting today, August 3rd through August 22nd, thereabouts, the rank and file will vote on the contract. It's a 5-year deal. Everyone, honestly, from the National Retail Federation, UPS moves 25 million packages per day. So any disruption would have been really, really tough, particularly at a time when things still seem like we're crawling out of a post-COVID supply chain disruption environment. So people are thrilled. I think we're all kind of consumers and businesses both are happy. So I think, it's great. We don't have to worry about that. We still have other areas of our overall supply chain, whether it's maritime or even some in the trucking sector. Still, there's some stuff that's going on, but yeah, no, that's the good news.
Yeah. So
Dodged a bullet.
Yeah, no, so great having the program be all good news. And of course, now I have to be Debbie Downer, or given movie popularity, I guess it'd be Barbie Downer this time of year. But yeah, I've got a couple of items that aren't so good news, but hope, fingers crossed, maybe things will get better. The first thing involves the Chemical Facility Anti-Terrorism Standards, the CFATs. Apparently that's something that's been in place for a couple of years now, and retailers have used it as a guideline for protecting their products and making sure that their facilities are as anti-terror proof as they possibly could be. But I guess that on July 28th, the CFATs legislation did lapse. The House of Representatives, this was House Bill HR 4470, and I guess the House of Representatives was able to pass it, and you'll appreciate this. It was passed 409 yeas, 1 nay. So again, another big number, over a couple of hundred for, 1 against. But unfortunately, the Senate wasn't able to come to any agreement on the legislation, so it did lapse. I know I've already seen some comments from the folks at the Agricultural Retailers Association regarding this, and our friends at the Illinois Fertilizer and Chemical Association, IFCA. And IFCA is just basically recommending that even with the lapse, they're still saying that their members should continue to follow and comply with the CFATS standards, and that they're going to do all they can to make sure those folks in Washington then return, that they actually try to get this passed and re-up for another 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's a prudent way forward. Yeah, so I mean, do we know what was the Senate? Do we know more about that?
We don't. I didn't find it, but I mean, I know that, on occasion, sometimes when there's these bills that are going through kind of at the last minute, they that those little riders, they throw these little clauses in there that not everybody can agree upon, and it sounds like that might have, I mean, to pass overwhelmingly in the House and then not get through the Senate, that is a bit of an oddity. So I'm sure there was something there, but I did not find any particulars on why the Senate wasn't able to come to an agreement on this. But again, IFCA's folks, when they sent the note out that I'm looking at here, they're basically saying they're going to do all they can with their members in Washington, D.C. to try to get this moving and reapproved in the Senate as soon as they can. So
it's good. So when they return from the August break, is that
right?
What
That's the plan. So
got it.
But again, in the meantime, they're just recommending members continue to follow the standards they've been using these last several years. So the other bit of down news, of course, we've been talking a lot about legislation with particular active ingredients, crop protection products, glyphosate, of course, and Enlist recently, seed treatment products as well. The one that sort of kind of faded out of the background the last year or so was dicamba, but lo and behold, I did run across an item that said there are now 2 dicamba lawsuits working through federal courts. One which is in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals. That is a lawsuit filed that is looking to which that one is doing. That one has to do with I guess it has to do with how the cutoff dates, when the cutoff dates for dicamba application are actually going to be applied, or how those are actually determined. That lawsuit though sounds like it's sort of in the early stages. The other one though is a lawsuit in Arizona federal court, and that one is looking to have the federal registration for dicamba vacated. And that one is a little further along, and they're anticipating that we may get a decision regarding that case as soon as November of this year. So we'll
Okay.
be watching these developments on the legal front, of course. But again, this is the new thing, Laura. When
Yep.
products are approved in the marketplace, you never know exactly when there's going to be a challenge to their being available to growers and ag retailers in the marketplace. So
Yeah, no, that's a big news item for sure.
yeah. All right. Well, hopefully we'll get back to the good news size. Time for your favorite segment of the show. Time for Fun with Numbers.
I liked when we were doing that live in Des Moines.
What I particularly liked was the fact that I said something as we were recording live in Des Moines to someone in our audience who was getting ready, as we were getting ready to go on and record. And I said, yeah, we're going to record our video. We do this every week. And I was trying to explain things. They're like, oh yeah, the numbers guy. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I
I
guess
didn't hear that.
that
That's
is my informal nickname in the industry, the numbers guy.
fine. All right, what do you got, numbers guy?
All right. Well, I got a percentage for you this week. It is 59%.
Okay.
So does 59%, Miss Laura, does that represent A, the percentage of corn experiencing moderate or worsening drought conditions as of July 31st?
Mm.
Is it B, the percentage of soybean experiencing moderate to worsening drought conditions as of July 31st? Is it C, the percentage of wheat experiencing moderate or worsening drought conditions as of July 31st? Or is it D, the percentage of attendees that have asked for a Women in Ag Tech ball cap post-event?
Well, I think they were all looking for the
I figure
cap.
you wearing the cap, you would have appreciated D.
Oh my gosh. This feels like a difficult one, because I have a feeling that they're all experiencing some impact of drought, but to what degree? I'm gonna go A, corn.
You are correct, ma'am. Yes, I know there are all across the US, all the row crops are experiencing drought conditions, unfortunately. But the report I was looking at was from the US Drought Monitor from USDA, and it was saying that 59% of the corn is in moderate or worse drought conditions as of the end of July. And that was an increase of 4% from earlier in July. More importantly, the report mentioned that 23% of the US corn crop is right now in what they're calling severe drought conditions. So again, I know I got several trips coming up here in August. I'm going to be in the I-states, Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa. I'll also be swinging a little bit through Ohio and Missouri and South Dakota. So it'll be interesting to see what the corn looks like in those areas. And it'll as we're at some of these summer trade shows, hearing the feedback from attendees and what their growers are saying in their markets about what they're expecting the harvest is going to look like. It could be a very interesting fall. And again, for those areas and those growers that are not experiencing drought, they're going to be fine and probably get a better price for their corn. But everywhere else, it could be a little bit difficult. So we'll have to see what happens.
I know you'll be out and about these next coming weeks, even next, month.
If I see this office again before Halloween, I'll be lucky. So
I'll be out a little bit, but yeah, try and take some pictures. I know you talk to folks a lot. Be interested to hear what you have to report when you get back.
well, and again, in a couple of weeks, you and I will be at the Maggie Show in Bloomington,
Right.
Illinois, and there's usually corn growing around that fairground. So we should be able to see firsthand for ourselves exactly what the corn looks like there in central Illinois. So
Yeah, looking forward to that show. It'll be my first Maggie show, so.
yeah. Oh, we'll haze you mercilessly, trust me.
Alrighty.
I'd say you wear your women in ag tech hat. It'll be a great conversation piece. You'll make lots and lots of friends. So
For sure.
all right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this edition of Crop Life Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj on behalf of myself, Lara Sowinski, and everyone here at Crop Life. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.